Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Blockchain and Beyond, the UWBO podcast series, where we deep dive into the real stories behind the blockchain adoption around the world. And today, with my co-host Sohail, I am truly excited to welcome Tariq, the general manager in Middle East at Crypto.com. So Tariq has been instrumental in driving Crypto.com's expansion in the UAE, including one of the world's first integrations allowing government services to accept crypto payments, a groundbreaking step for the region. So Tariq, we're really glad to have you here with us today. And now I will hand it over to my co-host Sohail to dive into this conversation.
Hi, thank you so much. Pleasure to be back again with our fifth episode of Blockchain and Beyond. As my co-host mentioned, we're honored with a very special guest. So, Tarik, welcome to Blockchain and Beyond. And yeah, I just want to explore how did you come across crypto.com, because this is obviously groundbreaking stuff that we're going to get to, but a little bit about your journey and how you ended up in this role.
Yeah, Sohail and Amina, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join the podcast today, and I'm happy to share a bit about my journey and what Crypto.com is doing here in the region. Yeah, so I think just to start, and you can probably tell by my accent, I'm originally from the U.S. I was born and raised in Buffalo, New York. Did my university at Ohio State, and later went on to law school and started my career working in New York and big banks and consulting firms, mostly focused on regulatory and compliance type work. And I joined a company called Paxos, who you may know well as a stablecoin issuer, gold token issuer, and at the time had the ItBit exchange. I joined at the end of 2017. Very different, but super exciting time in crypto. And the opportunity came to move to Singapore and help lead some of the global operations for Paxos's business there. And I always wanted to live abroad. Singapore was a perfect place to, I think, move, and it was a really great opportunity to go at a time where Singapore was, I think, one of the biggest global crypto like early adopters as a country, but also where people were building businesses and projects of all kinds, whether it was early DeFi or NFT or exchange, anything you can think of, really what was happening there. But this was before the Payment Services Act, that the MAS licensing framework that later was issued. So I got to see the regulation kind of build up to allow crypto companies to operate in Singapore. And that's about the time where I joined Crypto.com. Now it's over 5 years ago, and my responsibility was to help obtain our license in Singapore and look to Asia Pacific as well, and Australia, Korea, and other markets, and eventually Middle East and Africa. I spent overall 6 years living in Singapore, but now I've been in Dubai a little over a year now. My role has changed, where as GM for Middle East and Africa, looking after our regulated businesses here in the region between UAE and Bahrain, trying to make sure we can have the most competitive and best offering possible under our leveraging the multiple licenses that we have. I think try and be able to I think grow and expand what products we have here, and this is really the perfect place to do so. And Dubai is, I think, the most exciting market to be working in crypto, and a lot of great energy here. And I think I've been fortunate seeing New York and Singapore and Dubai's crypto communities, and a lot of these people are now have moved around and are living here. So it's been a great experience for me. And now 8 years in crypto, I couldn't really imagine doing anything else. I just love this space and love the people and the challenges that come with every week.
Interesting. That's super interesting. The evolution of that, I think, is quite amazing, because that's 5 years in crypto.com, that's one full cycle. And I guess seeing all of those things take shape,
A few market cycles for sure.
a few cycles for sure. So
Yeah.
I really actually wanted to go into something, because throughout those cycles that you've been a part now, even before that, working with Paxos, now crypto.com, You know, the topic of crypto adoption has been at the forefront of how, we're going to gauge the success of crypto. And I think there was a massive news, being a native of Dubai right now for over 25 years. Now, this was something really groundbreaking for all residents on a crypto adoption level. And it was the article which was just posted recently on Khalid's Times that in 2 years, cryptocurrency could become part of everyday life in the UAE. And would you look at it, Crypto.com was very instrumental in taking shape of that. So I wanted to get your assessments on that, and also if you could, put a little bit of kind of a role on what Crypto.com's role will be in taking shape with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I'm very happy to see my colleague and friend Mohammed there smiling on stage in that nice photo. But we, I think how the article is titled, could be part of everyday life, but for many people, it already is. The UAE has attracted people from all over the world because of its, I think, kind of dynamic business environment, entrepreneurial options for people, and a lot of these uh, folks that are working in the industry here are paid in crypto, or consulting and paid in crypto, or trading daily and setting up business crypto native businesses here. So this is already happening. I use crypto every day of of my life, and I know many others who are. So I think this is more of a bringing it to a wider audience, and with the ability, let's say here, for the Dubai government to accept crypto payments. This is in line with the national initiative to support cashless and more digitally native payment solutions.
Is
So
That's an interesting point that you mentioned is that in the next 2 years, Dubai plans to be 100% cashless.
yeah,
Okay.
so
Could you
this
tell us a
is
little bit
yeah.
more about that?
Yeah, I think crypto has a big role to play in that, because this is natively digital money, right? So your ability to pay with an electronic, means is, and this is exactly what crypto's for, right? Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer payment system is what the foundation of crypto was built on. So the cashless initiative, I think, will for most people is going to look at more card friendly and online friendly payment options, but crypto will be part of this as I think a key medium for payments here for I think the growing crypto community, and also wider, I think, retail crypto holders that are emerging here in not only the UAE but globally. So you think of somebody when they're going to pay for their SALIC or their traffic fines, they'll see the card schemes, Visa and MasterCard or Apple Pay, and then you'll see Crypto.com Pay eventually here. So people who are crypto holders are given another option to make payments. So, but each person, I think, will have their different kind of I think level of attraction to this. Where for me, I want to hold and continue to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. But if I have stable coins or anything, this is a great option to pay with. And for the merchants, or let's Dubai government here, this is a excellent way for them to participate in this cashless
Yeah,
initiative, drive crypto innovation, but also they do this in a way where they don't have any exposure to crypto themselves, in a way where immediately when merchants will receive crypto as a payment, it's converted into AED, so it'll be either in dirham or AED stablecoin, and that's the requirement from central bank here. So this is a great ways to, I think, participate in the crypto economy, but still manage your own risks. And I think in a way that I think is manageable for merchants here.
I think that's going to be fascinating, and it's going to drive significant value for Bitcoin for sure, But I could see a big camp of Bitcoin enthusiasts and crypto enthusiasts that say, "Hey, wait, 100% cashless. What are we working towards here? And is that going to be as because we know that ethos of crypto, the mentality of crypto, obviously is, a little bit of good old libertarianism inside. And can you speak about that? Could that be a conflict to the ethos?
Yeah, this is something where I am more skeptical that this will be done for nefarious purposes or there's some, wider plan of misuse for cashless systems. I think it's more aimed towards cost effectiveness and digitalization rather than the surveillance reasons. But I think to each their own there, and I think people can, make their own decisions. But and this comes up a lot with central bank digital currencies, right? So my personal take on this is your average person will either not know or really be directly handling any CBDC. This will be, I think, cleaning up some of the financial system plumbing or settlements with central banks or bank to bank type settlements as a more cost effective and transparent way of moving money and acting as a, I think, settlement currency where, wherever this may be. Here in UAE, it'll be AED. But I think it's leveraging what's a promising technology that can, save costs, be more, I think, efficient and effective rather than, I think some other agenda.
Yeah, and I think that's the purpose of Bitcoin was peer to, you mentioned peer-to-peer payments. So
Yeah,
that's something that I
that will still
think
exist. Yeah.
that yeah. So interesting to see how that develops. And I think yeah, Amina, you had a question, I believe. I'll pass it to you.
Yeah, yeah. So, guys, I absolutely agree with this. Especially, I see nowadays how many people, for example, they starting to hire someone and pay instantly using USDT. It doesn't matter like where the person is located, whether it's in Africa. Like it's better, of course, than just imagine people just accepting SWIFT payments or just waiting for this 2 weeks, 1 month. And in this sense, like I'm really the fan of the crypto payments. I use it every day, like Tariq. So just, but my question here right now is more about crypto.com. Like I just have a question to you, Tariq. Like what sets crypto.com apart in terms of tech security and compliance? Can you please
Yeah. So
provide?
I, good question. And I think, this is always something I like to share because, you know, people ask, what's your guys' kind of secret for being able to do all of these unique partnerships and obtain licenses and things that other I think exchanges aren't doing, I think, to the same degree. And it's no real secret other than having a company that's security and compliance first and privacy in its nature and DNA. I think the one thing I would share to highlight what sets us apart is just the sheer amount of licenses and registrations that we hold globally. So I think by a large degree, the most licensed crypto exchange globally, where we're in all major markets: US, EU, UAE. We have a license in Bahrain,
Yeah,
South Korea, Australia, and across multiple business lines. There's e-money or PSP type of payment licenses, licenses for custody, licenses for traditional financial products, derivatives, CFDs, these kinds of more advanced trading products that are more known in the equities space. But this is something that has been a really focused effort for the 5 years that I've been here, and this is not possible as well as complementing compliance with best-in-class controls, tools, and a team to go along with this, as well as security, where every level of security and privacy certification that's possible in the space is something that we have obtained going through very frequent audits, both internally and externally. It's a big challenge, I think, to manage these, but that allows us to, I think, differentiate ourselves and give customers the, I think, confidence to, trust us with their crypto needs. At the end of the day, we're handling people's money, so it needs to be done with the utmost care. And I think in everything we do, security, privacy, and compliance is at the forefront.
Interesting. I think that kind of strength is highlighted in the level of policy that I think an exchange and being able to, we obviously seen what happened to Binance the recent months or even the recent years, and obviously the Biden attack, as you point out, but that level of policy and engaging with regulators. So it'd be very fair to ask you, you know a thing or two about regulatory arbitrage, having that extensive insights and experience. What do you think sets the regulators apart in terms of forward thinkingness? And, you've got this approach. So I guess America and UAE and Singapore. Could you compare and contrast these takes that they have to regulating crypto as a country?
Each of these places are a little different, right? So as a general principle, just to share what makes it for a crypto business, what's going to make it attractive to operate there and localize is first your ability to do so. There's clear regulatory frameworks that allow you to enter into the market, serve customers, obtain a license, and a major bonus, of course, and something we've been very successful at is path to be able to have a strong banking network. So fiat in and out is possible. And that's something that even at this stage of crypto maturity is definitely not a given. And we've seen
Absolutely.
different markets where the central bank, MAS in Singapore, has the payments license that crypto falls under, as well as e-money kind of or remittances. And now they have custody and stablecoin issuance. So it's all under the Payment Services Act license. And that gives a lot of clarity for firms who want to enter the Singapore market and kind of base themselves there. But this is a very high bar. Approach has been very cautious, and I think rightfully so. And the standard at this stage, I think, is quite high everywhere. But I think Singapore, is a tier one financial market. Is certainly, I think, one of the more stringent regimes. And we're very proud as Crypto.com to be headquartered there and one of the first companies to obtain a PSA license. But the biggest benefit there is it's very clear who you're going to as the regulator and what
Yeah.
regulations apply.
And
UAE
that's
is
in
obviously
Singapore.
different.
Obviously,
Go
USA
ahead.
doesn't have that regulatory body set up, so I guess it's no point in really asking about that. But I guess we could make a fair comparison of Singapore and UAE, right?
Yeah. So yeah, just to touch on the US, you have federal regulators, you have state regulators, and you have for different product types, different federal and state regulators for them. So we, as a company, I think hold over 45 registrations and licenses to operate within the US. It's a huge challenge to manage all of this, but it's, and until we get some type of, I think, more clearly defined path, I think, to operate federally, then this is the best you can do. And the UAE is interesting, right? So there's free zones, there's mainland. Each regulator in these free zones kind of specialize in certain product types and things. So it really depends what the nature of your business is. So at Crypto.com, our company motto is cryptocurrency in every wallet, and that's our mission. So we obviously have a retail focused business, and our exchange and some of our other products are servicing huge trading institutions, financial institutions. So this is a really significant part of our business as well. But our retail offering is something that when we're localizing into a market, we're going to look how can we best do this. And we started our journey here 3 years ago. So just about the same time that Vara was setting up. And that was something that was extremely great news and exciting for us, where Vara was providing a framework that we were participating in the policy consultations during the rulebook roundtables. I was coming here to be a part of those sessions. This now kind of fast forward to today. This has enabled us to have both retail, institutional customers, and almost all of our products here. So that's been the great part about the UAE. But there's also, we hold a license with ADGM with a company we've acquired to do more TradeFi services. And we also follow all of the type of innovation forward thinking sandbox and license options that are coming out from some of the other Emirates and other free zones. Like you may have seen out of DIFC, the
Yeah, I've seen.
tokenization one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's super interesting just because the importance of tokenizing real world assets in the moment. And this one in DIFC is more focused on tokenizing securities and custody and trading services of tokenized securities. So this is kind of, merging the TradeFi services and blockchain technology. And these are all really specialized, right? You might not go to Vara if that's what the service that you're looking to offer, or you may look at ADGM for others. So it's all product and kind of business specific, but you certainly have amazing, I think, routes to be successful in terms of operating in the UAE, and this is why we're running our regional hub out of Dubai. So it's the perfect place to do so.
That's within the DIFC, which is a financial magnet in terms of the level of capital that is obviously being secured in that jurisdiction. But I tend to agree with what you've said. I think when you look at the new hosting services, it's kind of a game-changing
Yeah,
offering that
yeah,
Vara has provided. Those kind of services, and recently they've tied up with a lot of smaller free zones to accept applications. So I think those ideas is very forward-thinking because at the end of the day, we want to get as many people, licensed and working within reason.
yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So we're operating out of DWTC with our VARA license, not DIFC. So I didn't want, yeah. But you're exactly right. This hosting, it's interesting where I think it will, I think, provide more opportunities for some unique entrants to the market who may have not gone through a full license otherwise. And I think it definitely is kind of good for, I think, the level of competition here. But I'm curious
What was
who's
your
going to be the first to leverage this, how it's going to look. So it's something I'm going to be keeping a close eye on.
What would your advice be to somebody who's just started the process and thinking about, okay, I'm going to be doing this hosting, or even if I'm looking at the cost, there's so many costs that come in, and and they might fall to some, let's say bad actors that kind of exploit this lack of knowledge. So, what would your advice be to somebody who's looking to just start up their licensing procedures?
Yeah, I would. So this is personal opinion, crypto.com aside here. I would be very cautious in doing this, and I would try and own as much of the customer relationship, AML, KYC issues, transaction monitoring, all of this as it myself, because you don't want to put that risk or outsource those risk controls because ultimately you're responsible for the activity. But I think it'd be a great way to bring in if there's any services that you don't have as an institution and someone else that's kind of their expertise that you can work together to have an exciting offering here. Vara and the UAE obviously take these compliance matters very seriously. So you have to have an excellent operational and regulatory compliance program to be able to I think pull off this kind of hosting setup successfully.
Only thing I would push back on that is that I don't think everybody has the treasury that Crypto.com has, where they can hire full
Fair.
stack teams and CROs. Even like we're based heavily in the risk business. We have a KYT tooling solution among others,
Yeah.
and we do see this concern coming from potential VASP owners that, yes, you are 100% right. As much of the tech, of the company, of the personnel you can in-house do, you should. But then if you were to rack up the whole bill as approximates of in-house, you'd probably go way beyond that budget. So hopefully,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
that's definitely a challenge, right? But at the end of the day, it's still this is financial services. It doesn't mean it's anything will be more lax because we're in a new space or because it's crypto. These are federally mandated requirements here. So I think with the kind of tools you mentioned on the KYT side, it lets you operate probably a bit more leanly, but it's definitely a challenge when, especially bringing in, I think, another entity to offer services.
Think that's an interesting points indeed. I just wanted to touch upon one more question. I think Amina wants to ask you about your regional growth plans. But speaking about all of that forward thinkingness, the Dubai Land Department recently teamed up with Vara that you mentioned and
Hmm.
have offered the real estate tokenized pilot project where 2,000 units were officially sold out within the first opening stages of releasing, and they've officially tokenized title deeds. Tell us your thought about that.
So Vara had the tokenization and issuance activity in there as one of their newer kind of licensing categories. And I thought this was really fascinating. And I was curious, who's going to be the first to kind of leverage it here. And the demand, I think, has been higher than expected, where I think there's plenty of competition in the trading space and, the exchanges. But this is really, I think, new on the
Game changing.
tokenization side with real estate, and the fact that you're partnering with Emirates and government organizations just, I think, gives it a lot more legitimacy right away. And you're seeing now, even in your Instagram feed or in socials, where a lot of advertising is pushing these kind of like real estate tokenized platforms and real world asset type products. So I think that this is fascinating. I'm still curious because I think about, myself as an investor. I don't know if I'm so interested in buying a share of an apartment over buying Bitcoin or stocks or mutual funds, these things. But I think if there's any place to test this as a use case, it's Dubai, right? Real
The
estate is
property
always
market here is insane. Yeah.
exactly. So I think this is a perfect place to see this, and it's something I think about a lot of how can this be a part of what part do we have to play? Whether this is with our broker dealer license, where we could list these kind of assets, and we of course have the technology infrastructure to support it. So we'll be watching this closely, and I think it's definitely exciting times here, especially where you have multi-government organization cooperation here to do something where it's clear the agenda to bring in blockchain technology to some of these government services, or with like title deeds or fractionalizing these kind of like development projects, is really good for everyone. And if it can lower the entry barrier for investment for everyday people, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think with 220 investors, the average investment of 10,000 dirhams per, and then 44 nationalities, I think that's showing a demand and sold out very fast. We have to see, obviously, how this technology is actually rolled out, and we're having a lot of positive talks. Also, I'd like to give a quick mention to the team that have been really the UAE, the Dubai Future Foundation, the Vara, all of them working hands to hand to kind of get this done. And yeah, I guess investors are looking for a diverse basket. I think when you look at Bitcoin, there are a lot of people that struggle to find other cryptos of value. And I think this is an excellent way of providing that. I think we're seeing tokenization take a new level in terms of, that digitizing a lot of assets that were traditionally very hard to get, either because of liquidity
Hmm.
or for whatever reasons. And I think those are going to come into the play. I think they're already coming into the play. We have gold, we have real estate, and having that stamp from the federal level. I don't think any country has come and actually tokenized title deeds in a large way, let's just say. So I think the forecast was 7% of total title deed registries, and I think 7% will just be easily done and achieved. That itself is
Yeah,
a
I would
big
think so.
factor. So
Yeah,
it,
agreed. And
it's just the process of the difference of that, because we've had tokenization for a while now. We've had asset tokenization, real estate, but we've always had the SPVs. So you technically own the SPV. You don't really own but it's a representation. But I guess when we take away those layers, that's what we're trying to do here, and that's the whole purpose of uh, blockchain is de-intermediating
yeah,
the
yeah,
process.
exactly. I'll be curious to see how some of these platforms are going to function. Where could I invest in one of these tokenized real estate projects, then sell it at a peer-to-peer basis to Amina or Sohail, or withdraw it? How is all of this going to
That's an
work?
interesting
Because
question.
yeah, I was talking to a friend about this, where I'm some of the edge cases here operationally are going to be interesting, where if you open up wallets that, external wallets for these tokenized real estate assets, if you have one that's going into a sanctioned address or high risk one, what happens now? So you have a tokenized part of real estate that's like, in, kind of in a higher risk wallet, or, may have to be sent to, financial intelligence unit that is run by, the government. So it's these things that I think will be fascinating to see how it plays out.
I 100% agree. I think the challenge has just started. When we look at the proactive approach, I think that's something that it's just the loading phase. It's still pilot. Remember that. And I think they've chosen XRP as the ledger to the blockchain
Right.
to facilitate that. And I believe they mentioned cross-border settlements. So that's one of the big prioritizations for them is cross-border. So right now it's open to Dubai residents while it's still at a very small test phase, and then plans are to expand it. And I do foresee that to have a massive challenge, as you just mentioned, when it comes to that scale. You've never had that really take place like that, when non-residents are frequently buying in Dubai. So that's going to be
Yeah,
definitely
I could see at some point where it'll function almost like a basket of tokenized assets here that you could invest in, where these will be, let's say, a combination of tokenized projects here in Abu Dhabi or in Dubai, and you can get exposure to regions or kind of a cities market. So I think the application of how we're going to see this used is just starting.
awesome. Amina, please.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear that so many pilots. I think basically UAE and just US and countries. This is just a place where the pilots can start and where we can see the real case studies for tokenization. Because, for example, in other countries, I just met people who are developing these tokenization platforms. But the main thing they are struggling is, again, like regulation licenses. Also, they're trying to tokenize, not like, not like real estate, like, but some things which, to be honest, like I'm very skeptical in terms of these things. They want. I also met the person who tries to, from China, who he's trying to tokenize cows and horses. I think this is
Okay.
the matter of the future growth, but in a very forward-thinking time. So yeah, and it's interesting discussion. And also, I have a question for you, Tariq. What are you, do you have like what are the types of new products or services are you planning to launch soon at crypto.com? Like, well, what are your next plans for the next 2 or 3 years? Are you maybe expanding the new something new, not in terms of development, tech, and
Yeah. So, recently in the region, we've rolled out our Crypto.com card product. We hold a payment service provider license in Bahrain. So, in a number of eligible jurisdictions, you can get your Crypto.com card now. We also have a principal membership with MasterCard. So, that means we can issue ourselves. So, this has been a really successful rollout in Bahrain and a handful of other markets. So, that's going to be one of our, I think it has been one of our latest additions here in the region. And I think what you can expect is kind of a continue to integrate more traditional financial services, where in like the US, we have stock trading on our app. So these kinds of efforts, will look to make, I think, it available in other markets. And, I think that's the exciting part is, I don't know what new products and services we'll have in 2 to 3 years, because we're always innovating and I think challenging what kind of the status quo is in the market. So I think you'll hopefully, Amina, be a customer and follow along yourself. I think we're in a perfect position in the UAE to innovate and bring other products from, I think that we've had in other markets, or use this as our kind of either test market or first place to launch. So definitely more to come.
Awesome.
also,
Awesome. You mentioned a few things that were taking place, and obviously Token 49 happened in Dubai for the second year
Mhm.
without the storm.
We got the heat this time.
And without the massive, yes, correct.
We
And
got, yeah, very, very hot weather.
correct. And Crypto.com was actually at the forefront of this event just in May, the beginning of May. So could you tell me a little bit about that and how did you guys feel about that event overall and what did you guys have to do during that busy period?
Yeah. So this is I
Apart from
thought.
the amazing party that was held, obviously, at Surf
Oh,
Conference.
thank you. Well, that's the highlight, right? The
Yeah.
party was a massive success, and I mean that was a great event to meet a lot of partners and customers and just new folks to the kind of crypto.com ecosystem, and it was a way where people that we've worked with or have supported us from all reaches of the globe to meet in one place was absolutely amazing. But that week is really what it's about is connecting with new and old colleagues or partners and friends. And it is full on. You're starting from first thing in the morning till well past
What?
midnight getting home. And, and,
Yeah.
and this is, uh, I
Plus
think
traffic.
yeah, and plus brutal traffic, right? That week was especially bad. But I think this was a bit of a signal to the world that this is where crypto is happening here in Dubai. And I had friends and that I've known for a very long time from the US or from Singapore, Hong Kong, and they were blown away by the scale of what's being done here, the variety of companies that are making a huge commitment and to having a presence here or going through the regulatory work to secure a license here and move their headquarters or regional offerings to Dubai. So I was really proud to be a Dubai resident during that week, and I think that probably was a good pitch for some people that were on the fence whether to either bring their business here or move over themselves to do. Yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to next year, but also equally glad it's over because that is an exhausting week. It is, it's full on.
I think that was exactly well put. I think I didn't really know what to expect. That was my first token experience. I can't count the one last year. And then it's going to be interesting to go to the follow-ups and see how Singapore, but from many of the feedback that I got, the Dubai one was bigger than Singapore. Is that true?
Also,
I don't know. I mean, the Singapore one, is obviously a very large event as well. So I haven't been told what the numbers are one way or the other. So I don't know, Amina, if you know this.
no, also didn't know.
It felt bigger, right? Just anecdotally being there at both. This certainly felt like the larger event, but I had a
But
great experience.
how is it so massive, Tariq? Like, because obviously you could speak a little bit. This is from Singapore. This started, and I think usually events they have to hire some kind of marketing PR. They have literally not got to do any of that. People are
Yeah, it's
just
funny, right?
dying.
This is it's pretty much this and a few others are the must. Token is the must attend crypto event. Not even necessarily, I'm talking about entering like the expo or, the conference itself, just the side
Being there,
events and
side
being there to
events.
network and just kind of being amongst the, community attending is a must do. How it became that, I don't know the story, but I think, the inertia it's built and continues to have is amazing because this is marked on everyone's calendar as the must go to event for the year.
Well, judging by the base of, just pure influx of capital and people and visits and tourists that came into Dubai, and add to that in a year or so when Dubai is going to be, you can make all of your payments from crypto, I'll be stunned to see what's going to happen there.
I'm very excited about that. I think hopefully we're as crypto.com and just the community of crypto folks here in Dubai will have a lot more exciting announcements to come. I probably can safely think that that's going to definitely happen.
Amazing, amazing. So I just wanted to finish off with some questions. Fast round kind of thing. Recently, we've seen the past 1 week that the price of Bitcoin and gold had a very strong correlation. Do you think that thing is actually coming to fruition? That gold is actually becoming the digital, Bitcoin is becoming the digital gold.
I think that analogy and that narrative has only gotten stronger. Gold, with the price of gold going up, and Bitcoin hitting all-time highs here, what, 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago. I've always been a believer in this, even though you get a lot more volatility with Bitcoin over the years. Just I think the factor of institutions getting heavily involved, the nature of the scarcity of Bitcoin. So let's see if it continues to be true. But I think that
Well, it's
it's a
at
strong analogy
106
that
versus 105 right now in terms of 1 kilogram, one Bitcoin. So it's holding up a little bit. Let's see. I'll go to the next question. ETH or Bitcoin?
Bitcoin. That's an easy one for me.
Do you believe in lost civilization?
I enjoy the kind of exploration of lost city of Atlantis and these kinds of things. Yeah, sure, right? I think that's very possible.
And aliens?
Ooh, yeah, I have. I'm going to say yes, but I kind of don't want it to be true, right? What are the chances? I don't want to have an alien encounter, but what are the chances that we're the only advanced life here in the universe? So I think so, and I mean you've seen out of the U.S. some of where there was congressional hearings on UFO sightings and more these videos coming up. But in the day and age of everyone having a smartphone, you'd think we'd get better footage, but let's see. I just hope it's not me that experiences it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. 100 men versus one gorilla. Who wins?
Yeah, I mean,
Tough question.
gorilla. I've kind of reconsidered my answer on this. I was saying it's easily
Okay.
the gorilla. Just
Big
couldn't do
gorilla.
it. But 100 big guys there, I think it's
That's
just
the
too much
caveat,
math.
right? They have to be relatively well-shaped men.
Okay, I think 100 men.
All right.
Yeah.
And this was going to be based off a story that I mentioned, but Builder AI 700 engineers versus one gorilla. I'll put this into context. You heard about Builder AI's Natasha AI that they had developed. It was supposedly a very low-code piece of
To build
algorithm
apps, right?
to build apps, which it turns out there were 700 Indian engineers behind just answering all the prompts. So that
Hmm.
was yeah, my final question. 700 engineers versus one gorilla.
Ooh, maybe probably the gorilla, right?
The gorilla, it
Yeah.
depends if they're programming him, maybe they could get an upper hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they'll certainly be smart, so maybe they can come up with some tactics. But I don't know. I'll give the gorilla the nod on this one.
But what do you think about that story? Just the fact that this is quite substantial money that was raised through that that launch, the Builder.ai, and turns out there was no meaningful tech behind that. Does that show a little bit of the hype or the case of the narrative behind AI?
Well, I think that it's probably not a reflection on where AI is. It's just we've seen these kind of cases in many different industries where if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And I think it's more something like that rather than an indictment against where we are in AI, because you can see the amazing things that are getting done and leveraging, ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever you prefer to use in your everyday work, and it's just the tools keep getting better. So I think it's not a knock on AI. It's more probably just making maybe promises that
We could say the
couldn't.
same thing happened in all developing or emerging technologies. That's a life cycle that even blockchain, crypto, a lot of similar kind
Absolutely,
of,
absolutely.
yeah. So it doesn't take away from the tech, just more around the nature of it. I guess that's pretty much it for today, and I'd leave it with some closing remarks. I think it's been a absolute pleasure. I think we have so much to talk about, but I just pass it on to you for closing remarks.
Well, so yeah, I mean, thanks again for having me. It was a wonderful conversation here, and I think the what's coming to the top of mind for farewell here is I was with some friends and they were asking me what's the best way to get money on and off an exchange, and I they said we didn't know crypto.com had such a good banking setup, so I promised I would try and get the word out more where we have both USD and AED fiat rails on our app live at the moment. So I think we have one of the best offerings in the region, and as part of my responsibility to help kind of get the word out on that. So if I'm always available if people are curious to hear more about our offerings and what we're doing in the region, I'm available. So thank you for giving me the platform and opportunity to share more about what Crypto.com is doing here in Dubai and the rest of the region.
Yeah, yeah. I enjoyed the conversation very much. Thank you, Tariq. And it was also the great
Thank you.
insights for me that you have them so many licenses, even like 45. This is really touching points for the audience and for the clients. So, yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining our
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you and take care.
you and wish you a pleasant day.